Welcome to Raw History. Here we cut through romanticization and speculation to show you the unfiltered reality of human history. By mid-1915, Allied commanders on the Western Front faced a crisis that threatened to paralyze military operations. The Germans were listening to everything. Signal communication relied principally on telephone and various buzzer telegraph instruments connected via single line and earth return. The earth was thus alive with buzzer and telephone induction. During mid-1915, the Germans were extraordinarily well informed of Allied plans. Carefully planned raids were met by hostile fire, exactly timed and directed. Relieving troops would be greeted, if not by shells, by shouts of welcome from the opposing trench. On one occasion, a Scottish battalion took over its new front, to the strains of its regimental march, played by a German cornet. The source of this intelligence breach initially baffled Allied commanders. Espionage was suspected, but an interned British civilian brought back the information that induction of lines led to widespread overhearing of signals. German listening posts had been eavesdropping on frontline communications from the commonly used trench buzzer signals. The two large armies were densely packed in their trenches, at places only a few hundred yards apart, creating ideal conditions for electromagnetic induction to carry signals from one set of wires to another. Every message sent through standard field telephones and buzzer telegraphs radiated detectable signals into the earth itself, allowing enemy operators with sensitive equipment to intercept communications without any physical connection to Allied lines. Enter the Fullerphone, a silent revolution. The ultimate solution to this problem came toward the end of 1915 when Captain A.C. Fuller devised the Fullerphone. In October 1915, Fuller brought two prototypes to 5 Corps in Flanders. His invention was tested on a 5-mile loop of cable, part of which ran in the water-filled moat of Ypres with a 10-ohm leak to earth. The instruments worked well and were obviously the answer to the problem of overhearing, which had brought the British Expeditionary Force signal system almost to a standstill. The Fullerphone was a portable direct current line Morse telegraph devised in 1915 by Captain Algernon Clement Fuller of the Royal Engineers Signal Service. The important feature of the Fullerphone was that its transmissions were practically immune from being overheard, which made the system at the time very suitable for use in forward areas. In addition, the Fullerphone was very sensitive, and a line current of only half a microampere was sufficient for readable signals. In practice, however, 2 microamperes were required for comfortable readings, and it could be worked over normal army field lines up to 15 to 20 miles long. The operational principle differed considerably from other direct current telegraph systems and buzzer telegraphs. The Fullerphone employed direct current in the line. By means of a chopping device and a filter circuit, the current which flowed into the headphones of both transmitting and receiving Fullerphones was interrupted at an audible frequency, about 400 to 550 Hz. That means that no call could be received or side tone be heard unless the chopping device, also known as the buzzer chopper, was working and properly adjusted. Therefore, the buzzer chopper was always required to be running whether transmitting or receiving. A filter combination of chokes and condensers prevented any variation in the line current during a signal and suppressed any audible frequency currents produced either by induction from other lines or by a buzzer or telephone speech on the line from passing through the headphones. It also ensured that the rise and fall of line current was comparatively slow and thus prevented clicks being heard in the receiver of a telephone set superimposed on the same line. Thus, the Fullerphone could not be overheard either by induction or earth leakage, and could only be tapped by a similar instrument directly connected to the line. Initial issues of Fullerphones were made up from converted field telephone sets. This type, however, appeared to be not the most successful. Towards the end of 1916, the Fullerphone was firmly established, and by 1918, most divisions had adopted Fullerphones for all their forward communication circuits. In the summer of 1916, Fullerphones were first introduced for frontline use at division level. Initially, they were limited in number so as to be only used for communications between battalions and brigades. During the winter of 1916 to 1917, there was an increase in supply such that they could be used for communications between companies and battalions. The device transformed operational security on the Western Front. When superimposed on existing telephone lines, telephone and Fullerphone signals could be sent over the line simultaneously without mutual interference. This dual capability meant commanders could maintain voice communications for urgent matters while transmitting secure telegraph messages for sensitive intelligence and operational plans. The Germans found themselves suddenly blind to Allied preparations, unable to anticipate raids, troop movements, or offensive operations that had previously been telegraphed through intercepted communications. It was found that only with the use of very sensitive equipment, believed to be valve amplifiers, was it possible to overhear a Fullerphone, and only then, when the listening earth was within 180 feet of the Fullerphone earth. This represented such a narrow detection window that it rendered German interception efforts effectively useless. The frustration among enemy intelligence units must have been considerable, as their previously reliable source of tactical information simply vanished. After the armistice, more improvements and modifications of the instrument were carried out. The basic principle, however, was never changed. In about 1937, a fully redesigned model, the Mark IV, went into service. This and its later variations can be considered as the most successful model, not only being more sensitive than its predecessors, it had also a simplified replaceable buzzer chopper and was easy to use as it carried no telephone set. Although the Fullerphone was devised as a non-interceptable signaling set for static warfare, it was again widely used during the Second World War because of its capability to work simultaneously with a telephone over the same line and, well, working through very long or leaky lines where telephone or telegraph traffic was impossible. In the Southwest Pacific, for example, the Australians made extensive use of the Fullerphone, notably in New Guinea. The device could achieve a throughput of up to 200 words per minute up to a distance of 700 miles, making it invaluable for long-range secure communications. Fuller never received direct financial compensation for his invention. When Fuller took his device to the Commission soon after the war ended, however, he was offered much less than he requested. Not only did his device rely heavily on the work of others, his patent rights would reap him further international rewards. Fuller perhaps took comfort from his post-war promotion, eventually reaching the rank of Major General. The Fullerphone's principles anticipated modern secure communications by decades. The concept of filtering and modulating signals to prevent interception, combined with the use of minimal current to reduce electromagnetic signature, foreshadowed techniques used in modern encrypted communications and stealth technology. Contemporary military communications still face the challenge of preventing enemy interception, though today's solutions involve digital encryption rather than clever analog filtering. The device demonstrated that security doesn't always require complexity. Fuller's elegant solution used basic electrical principles, direct current, mechanical chopping, and passive filtering, to achieve results that sophisticated German listening equipment simply couldn't penetrate. This lesson resonates in modern cybersecurity. Sometimes the most effective protection comes from changing fundamental transmission characteristics rather than adding layers of complexity that introduce new vulnerabilities. Subscribe to Raw History for evidence-based explorations of forgotten military innovations that shaped modern communications technology. Share your thoughts on World War I signal intelligence in the comments below.